with me is Ian Roebuck, and Ian, welcome to our little show. And you've been in cranes for a very, very long time, and it's a specialised industry. I mean, you know, picking it up and putting it down. But what I've sort of gathered over the last little while we've been doing this is there's more work goes into how the lift is done and where you put it. So there's a lot of workings out done before the actual lift is operated. Mind you, you get little jobs, can you just pick this up and, you know, this container up and put it from there to there and little things like that. But getting back to when you started, what did you start with?
Originally was in the family business. We started off with an old Michigan LDT 20, which was bought second hand off Bignell Cranes in Whangarei, and then eventually when I fled the coop, call it what you may, we had 9 cranes in the Roebuck fleet.
Right, and they were all truck cranes? Like
they were all, well, we had all, surprisingly enough, they were primarily Coles cranes from England. Oh, okay. Diesel electric, which, yeah. Oh. And then we ended up with a 30-ton Priestman, second hand out of England, and we bought our first hydraulic crane actually off Burkett, Roy Burkett here in New Plymouth. He'd somehow smuggled one in, which we ended up with.
So the coal crane, we saw, there's one in the Higgins Park Museum. It was operated around Nelson for many years, and then it's gone past its use by date, and he's given it to the museum. But had an interesting cab in that next to the driver, the seat was the other way around, and the controls, you know, on the left-hand side. Yeah. So he sort of got out of the driver's seat, ran out of the side, looking the other way, and he's operating this crane. Yeah. Did you have something like that?
We had one. We had the first 10-tonner that came to New Zealand. It had 105 feet of main boom, plus about a 10-foot fly on top of it, right, which we did the International Hotel here with for the owner, and that one you actually just turned the seat around.
Oh, the driver's seat.
The driver's seat spun around like a tram car, and you pulled the lever up between your legs, so you could actually drive it left or right, or do it from the seat.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, that was.
So when you say 10-ton crane, was that the heaviest crane in the country at the time?
No, Swanson Engineering had a 10-tonner in this town too. Right. They had a P&H, and we had this famous Coles. Yeah.
So what sort of work were you doing with that?
Just construction work around.
Yeah.
See, Roebuck construction in those days, they used to work 240 odd people in the field, so they were quite big. And when I started with them, we sort of started an offshoot, which was like a hire centre. So that we ended up with 8 cranes, the biggest being a 30-ton Priestman, and we ended up with 25 forklifts out on hire and 10 big compressors driving demolition gear. Did
you specialise as time's gone by? You suddenly found a little niche for yourself with the cranes?
Oh, yeah. I suppose I did, because when I left Roebuck's about 14 years later, after 3 years of finding that I tried to live just working ad lib, but I didn't get enough money to feed a wife and 3 girls. So I had to get into business, and that's what I did. I bought a crane, yeah. That's how it started.
Oh, okay. No, let's hope this works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, see, in those days too, you had the likes of Dave Carden, who was an extremely compatible person to deal with, and he facilitated my entry with a crane of a colour that I like too, which had happened to be one from Jack Jones, Partridge Cranes in Te Puke.
Oh.
And so, yeah, that's how I started. And my first job, I drove into town the day after I picked it up, waved to everyone, obviously. Look at me, I'm here, I've got a crane. And Bothwick's at Waitara, the meatworks had just burnt down.
Oh.
So my first job ended up there with Hawkins Construction for nearly 9 months. Never moved. I think I did 7K in 9 months.
Okay. Which is another interesting aspect of cranes. They don't do a great deal of mileage.
Oh,
No,
not,
like the mobile cranes. You go to a job and you're there.
Yeah, although we in the early days, we would, I mean, to go to Hara, we would have, in the early days here, out of here, we would have a crane in Hara 3 times a week.
Right.
So, you know, we do quite a big mileage.
Jeez. So the crane you're talking about, it's got the boom sticking out the front?
Yeah, in those days
Yeah.
it did, yeah.
What was that like to drive?
Oh,
I mean,
it's all right with the driver, but it's the people coming around the corners and they see the boom sticking out first, you know, because you go like up on the Forgotten Highway,
yep.
out through Stratford Wonga area.
Yeah.
We've done, I've done 360 bridge and bridge deck replacements in
Wow.
Taranaki. And, you know, a lot of them have been up in that backcountry area where we used to rail the concrete beams in and then pick them up at the rail and take them in place.
So the railway worked back then?
Yeah.
No,
Well, it was the only way we could in lots of
fair
cases,
enough. Yeah,
because we
yeah.
never had trucks that
No.
could get round the corners up there, see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they tell me, you know, back when I was driving trucks, you could only, Bill Prescott could only go 40 miles
Yep.
around the nearest. How does that apply to cranes?
But that had all gone when I started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember when Roebucks used to get all their petrol in boxes and, and 4-gallon tins.
Yeah.
Up until about 8 years ago, I still had one of those boxes with 2 tins in them.
Wow.
So, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, but you know, the era when I started was, for the want of the right word, just when things were starting to loosen up and the government was starting to get a bit of sense and let people move around.
Yeah. Freedom of movement. Yeah. Is there an outstanding lift that sort of sticks in your brain?
Oh, we've done a few. We did just at the time when people were starting to get a bit PC, which was pretty hard to contend with. We did a lift here for Fletcher's up at the stadium, and we did from memory it was about 80 metres one way and about 70 the other, or nearly 80 square anyway. But they built the roof, they put the legs up first, and then they built the roof on the ground, and then we were given the job to lift the roof up 7 metres and put onto the post.
Wow. Is that 2 cranes?
So we had 9 cranes on that. And in those days, I employed she's still here, a girl as a crane operator, and that was one of the first jobs that she did. And I had a Dutchman, Gerard, who'd worked for me at Roebuck's for about 12, 14 years, and he was working for me then, and Fletcher's kept wanting a study or something, how we were going to do the job. And I said,
right.
well,
yeah. So you had to submit it all in writing.
Well, yeah. Well, we were asked to, yeah.
Wow.
But the problem that I have is that I've lived all my life with a saying that never worry until worry worries you. And that was going to be 2 days before we did the lift. So the night before we went up, Gerard and I sat there and looked at what we were going to do. And the methodology that was given to Fletcher's that night was that we were going to put a 4x2 under the seat of each crane and fix it there with a 10-foot tape on it. And we were going to run the tape from the crane driver's seat out through a finial which Gerard turned up and put a piano wire to the bottom of the lift. And then I stood on Jenny's crane, and the rules were that when I said go, everyone started to lift. And because we weren't allowed to get it any more than 120 mil out one way and 100 mil the other way, because it was an arched roof, as I read out, as the tape was pulled out of Jenny's crane, I called out over the radio to everyone else. And if they got any more than 4 inches out of sync, someone would say stop, and we'd all level up again and start.
Wow.
That was probably one of the trickiest ones.
Wow. So coming forward, when was the first hydraulic train you got?
Oh, that was in Roebuck's days.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah. And then from then on, like, hydraulics were the only things. You know. There's 2 crane industries in New Zealand. You've got the strut boom cranes, the crawler stuff that, you know, and for many years they were the biggest cranes around. And then you had what everyone called an oil can, and they used to duck in and out like bees on a honey pot. So do a job here, duck away. Yeah.
So the current fleet you've got now comprises of
primarily leapies.
Yeah.
And all hydraulic.
I see on the back you've got one of those McCulloch.
Oh yeah, that's one of all cranes. We run 3 hives here and one in Tokoroa. Yeah.
Are they busy?
Oh yeah, like I hate trucks with a vengeance, but they. 3 out of the 4 that I own earn better than a good living.
Oh, okay.
That's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. And I see you've got some tower crane components there, or is that the
no?
chip
That's the fly chips on the crane.
Oh, I knew that.
What happens is you get a crane and it's got a fly chip. They all have fly chips, but what happens most of the time is it's easier to say to the client, well, I can give you a crane, it'll take them 20 minutes or half an hour to put the fly jib on and take it off, which you're paying for. Or I can give you the next size up and it's this much money and it can do it without putting the fly jib on.
Right.
So it's a bit of psychology, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, it's the dollars again, the horrible dollars again.
Right, yeah. DMAG stands for uncompromising quality. As one of the world's leading manufacturers of high performance and reliable industrial cranes, crane components and drives, we offer our customers a comprehensive range of smart solutions for their material flow and logistic needs. Our name is synonymous with maximum safety, reliability and innovation. We provide our customers with smooth processes, maximum efficiency and best results. So, want to find out more? Just call All Crane on 0800 All Crane or check out their webpage www.allcrane.co.nz. In November, we're doing another old truck run. That's where people come with me in a minibus and we look at truck collections that start from Auckland and go all the way to Invercargill. And so basically we go down the east coast and come back up the west coast. So if you'd like to join us, we're leaving on the 9th of November, that's a Wednesday, and we come back I think on Saturday the 20th or 21st or something like that. But anyway, if you'd like to find out more and you'd like to join us, just send me an email, billhoheper@extra.co.nz, and I'll send you all the details, the cost and what you get for your cost and an itinerary of where we're going. So if you want something completely different and a bit of a tour of New Zealand, this old truck run is just the thing. So email me, billhohever@extra.co.nz, and I'll send you all the details. Fassi, an extraordinary crane. So if you need a crane fitted to your truck, either behind the cab or on the back, then Fassi is the crane you need. Fassi can load your truck and trailer as well as unload them. A versatile crane that saves time and money. So to find out about getting your Fassi crane, just call All Crane on 0800 All Crane or check out their webpage at www.allcrane.co.nz. So the maintenance side of things,
we've always done our own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the leap here is a little bit specialised, but even any hydraulic, any crane really is the guts of it is like a human. It's all in one piece and done by one thing. It's all the bits and pieces that they put on to make that work that let you down.
Okay. So the crane itself is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all up to date. Grease.
Yeah.
Has grease nipples disappeared?
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember back in the day.
Yeah.
In fact, we met a man who had a collection. He lives in Antarctica. I think he had about 180 grease guns.
Oh, okay.
It's all as he collected them.
Yeah.
And there's not two the same. It's just,
bet,
it's just interesting.
Yeah.
What people collect them in. Grease guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what the bearings they have now are all sort of self-sealed and they last.
Yeah, most of the componentry on booms and stuff like that, seal bearings and look, we've never replaced. My oldest leap here is 15 years old, and we've never replaced a boom bearing or that.
Really?
I mean, that's how good they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Germans too, you got to hand it to them. They're the dearest pricks in the world to make a crane, but they make good stuff.
Yes, they're noted for that. So I also note that a lot of booms are all just held together with pins. A big heavy pin and a cotter pin on the other end of it.
Yeah, not so much that now. It's all electronic because that's where they get their strength from.
Oh, okay.
On the hydraulic booms, the strength of it comes through pinning it, and that's all done from the driver, and it just pins pop either outsidewards or top and bottom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where the strength comes. Because some of the booms, you're only talking about 5 mil on the bottom and 3 mil over the top. So it doesn't take much to bend them. And steel's got a marvellous memory when it comes to going back to being straight again.
Okay. Yeah. I see you've got some models over there. Are they just your models or are they models of just general purpose cranes?
No, that's when people sell you a crane, they think they're doing you a favour and they give you one.
Give you a model of it.
Yeah, that's part of the licking the brown shoe business. That's what that is.
Because there was a bloke called Bruce Julian who drove the Scammell.
Yeah,
on
for
the
Shell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then he was telling us about the gas, laying the gas pipes all the way to Huntley.
Yeah.
And the way they did that.
Well, Bruce worked for Caesar Consolidated in those days, which was Buff Wedding,
Oh, yes.
Buff Wedding, Johnny Walker and their accountant. And I was the mechanic for them and load the pipe out here for a few months.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And Bruce worked for Shell for years.
Yeah, so they had all these D9s with the the craned business on the side of them, all in a row across the river.
Yeah.
It was just.
I can show you a photo that Shim works for Daniel Smith. When the pipe rolled off going across the Tongapuruta River, the pipe rolled off the skids. We had 9 cranes stacked and 2 side booms to lift that back onto the skids again. So yeah, look, we've done some tricks in my time.
Yeah. I just love the idea where they got a bulldozer sort of holding a digger down a cliff.
Oh yeah.
Digging a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to go straight. We're not going to go that way, we're not going to go that way, and it doesn't matter, we're going straight. Whatever's in front of us, we'll deal with it. Yeah, interesting. Tadano have been building cranes since 1956. Tadano is the name in mobile cranes, from 2-axle to 7-axle cranes, as well as track cranes. Tadano, a great choice of crane. So if you're looking for a crane, why not choose Tadano? Tried and true. To find out more, just go to allcrane.co.nz. Christmas isn't all that far away, and so if you're looking for a present for the truck driver or somebody interested in transport in your life, then my Talking Trucks book might be just the thing. So if you'd like a copy, just email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz, and I'll take your details and I'll get a copy in the post to you. Now this book covers trucks basically heading back from about 1972 to the time they started making vehicles. So a good historical book, and tells you all about the New Zealand transport industry up until about 1972. So for a Christmas present, perfect. Email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz. One of the interesting things I've found as we've travelled around this country is some of the machinery that was around and did all sorts of jobs in the 70s and 80s. And this bulldozer has got a boom up the side, and the winches on this side to control the hook, and we've got, there's the hook. And this was part of the machinery that was used to do the pipeline that was from New Plymouth through to Huntly. And it's just interesting that we've actually found one. And I'm not sure if this is a Cat D9, I don't think it is, but it's certainly got plenty of controls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hand controls there, hand brakes, another couple of levers here, 2 more levers here, this, and a couple of steering arms for the control the left and right of the tracks. But it's just great to be able to sit on the very machines that did that pipeline all that time ago. I guess a lot of them have gone, probably turned to scrap or whatever happened to them. But as I said, it's just great to be able to find one of the original machines from the 1980s that did that job, complete with a boom up the side, all the controls on that side, and yeah, it's just wonderful. Here's some photographs of this machine and others doing that job. Awesome.
It's some of the jobs you end up doing, Bill, you know, like, you know, we've done probably about 180, 190 heavy salvages, you know, like trucks out of the river. From here to Tikawiti is probably one of the biggest truck killing roads that we had for years.
We did a story about the Kingston Flyer train.
Oh yeah.
And there were 2 Kingston Flyers. There was one, the first one, which was a Rogers American train, and they only got that because England couldn't keep up with making trains, so they got this one and they wanted it now, so they got this Rogers, and it did whatever it is, and when it finished they just threw it in a creek. And that's where it sat. Anyway, 20, 30 years ago they decided they're going to pull this out of the creek and restore it. So our crane sort of on the back of it, all shit, and you look at that and think, how the hell are you going to sort of turn that back into what it was? And they did.
Oh, yeah.
And you just see it now, and it's absolutely spotless.
Pristine, yeah.
Everything's where it should be, and it works. It's just incredible, the amount of ingenuity of guys who do that, restore stuff. It's just unbelievable.
Well,
and then Brian Belcher, I don't know if you know him or not, but
well, there was a Brian Belcher, was the engineer at the fertiliser here. At the new who owned that? Anyway, there was Brian Belcher was there.
I mean, Brian had a truck in his day, and he was in Auckland carting grain for the people who do that. But anyway, when he was a kid, this Diamond T turned up at his place, and he got up on the dashboard, got on the running board, looked in the window. Oh, wow, that's flash. Lovely dashboard. And he said, I'm going to get one of those one day. Anyway, so I got this old well driller that was a Diamond T, and all his friends turned up, and he just absolutely just made it look absolutely beautiful. But, you know, when they finished this job, he was very proud of that, didn't he?
Look, you're talking about cranes with booms over the front. We've been up for 3 days, 2 nights in the Wonga Hotel, which is quite good. And I'm coming home one day with a Michigan, and the first 1.5 meters of the boom was all white. So it was just on dusk, and I'm coming roaring down this hill, down the Wonga Saddle, and I come round a corner like that, and this car was coming up here, and they just saw this white thing come around the corner, and they went, and they dived over the back. This is going to hurt. See? So I jumped out and threw a block under the wheel so it didn't run away. And I raced over in these chokers, and the car's sitting on the back like that. What happened to you? He said, there's this big white thing in the sky, you know. I said, well, look, just sit there, and I'll. So I backed the crane up, put a wire rope on their tow ball, and let the brake off, and I just rolled and sucked them out over the thing and sent them on. But the story when they got to the pub that night at Wonga was about, instead of being that long, it was about that long. So yeah, look, honestly, and if you don't laugh, you die. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what I find.
Got to keep laughing. The Heritage Park people are having a transport fest on the 1st and 2nd of October between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. It's a great family day out, so come along and enjoy yourself at Higgins Park on the 1st and 2nd of October. We'll see you there. This looks like an old crane, and on the back there it says Austin Western. It's probably American, and there's wire ropes there that operate the hook. There's a hydraulic ram in behind that, so you can lift that boom up and down. There's hydraulic rams that push the boom out and bring it back, and a toolbox locked. But in this little cab here, the driver is sitting forward, and there's 4 levers on his right hand side of the steering wheel. There's 2 more levers just behind that. There's one that's obviously a gear stick. There's 4 levers behind him, and some sort of a braking system just here. So in order to sit and operate this thing, he's got it hanging over the front so he can see what's going on. He can move the operating levers on that side, and to get this one he's just probably got to lean back a bit and pull those ones. Yes, it can slew just a bit, so it's just an interesting crane. It's 4-wheel drive, and it's got these hydraulic rams that come out and keep the whole thing steady. But if you know anything about this crane, there's my contact details, billhohepper@extra.co.nz. Just flick me an email. Love to hear from you, and love to find out a bit more about this old crane. Amazing.